The old Blackwood Manor loomed ominously in the distance. It stood on a hill, shrouded in a thick, almost impenetrable mist that seemed to cling to the very stones of the building. The trees around it were gnarled and skeletal, their twisted forms casting eerie shadows on the ground. They clawed at the sky with twisted branches, as if trying to escape the earth that held them captive. Their leaves were long gone, fallen to the years, leaving the ground carpeted in a blanket of decay. The mansion itself was a monument to decay, a relic of a time long past. Its stone walls were crumbling, the mortar between them eroded by time and neglect. Ivy, thick and dark, snaked its way across the facade as if trying to reclaim the building for nature. Windows, once bright and full of life, were now dark eyes, staring out into the void. They stared out blindly at the encroaching forest, a silent witness to the passage of time. The air was heavy, it hung thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something more elusive. It was fainter. A metallic tang lingered beneath the scent of decay, a reminder of the mansion's storied past. This place had a story to tell, a history etched into its very bones. It whispered on the wind, a soft, mournful sound that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. It was a tale woven from darkness and sorrow, a narrative of loss and forgotten dreams. Emma stopped her car at the foot of the long drive. She shivered. The mist seemed to press against the windows, a living presence. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed her bag and stepped out. Her boots crunched on the gravel. Each step echoed in the silence. She was a historian, drawn to forgotten places, places like Blackwood Manor.
I had heard the whispers, the rumors of tragedy. Now, with every step towards the house, I felt a growing unease.
The mansion seemed to watch her approach. It was an unwelcome presence. Emma pushed open the rusted iron gate. It groaned in protest. She was here now. There was no turning back. The interior of the mansion was dark and silent. Dust lay heavy on every surface. Cobwebs clung to the shadows in the corners. Emma moved through the rooms, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. She could feel the weight of the past pressing down on her. Each room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her to move on.
In the library I found it, a bookshelf set slightly away from the wall. It looked out of place.
Curiosity piqued, Emma investigated. A hidden latch. A soft click. The bookshelf swung inward, revealing a narrow passageway beyond. A secret. The secret room was small and dusty, a forgotten corner of the manor that seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. A single window, boarded shut, allowed a sliver of light to pierce the gloom, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. A desk sat in the center of the room, its wooden surface worn and weathered by time. Its surface was covered in papers, each one a fragment of a story waiting to be told. Journals, bound in leather, were stacked neatly beside a silver inkwell, their pages filled with secrets and memories. This room had been used recently. Someone had been here, disturbing the dust that had settled over the years.
These journals, they belonged to Victor Blackwood, the last resident of the manor. His handwriting was unmistakable.
Emma sat down and began to read, her fingers tracing the faded ink on the pages. The journals belonged to Victor Blackwood, the last resident of the manor. His words were a window into his soul. His words painted a picture of a man haunted by his past, a man who could not escape his own memories. He wrote of his family, lost to a tragic accident that shattered his world. He wrote of the darkness that consumed him in their absence, a darkness that seemed to have a life of its own. He wrote of the whispers he heard in the night, whispers that seemed to come from the very walls of the manor.
Whispers that promised solace, a comfort that was always just out of reach. Whispers that spoke of forbidden things, secrets that should never be uncovered. The journals were a testament to a man's descent into madness, a journey that Emma was now beginning to understand.
As the day wore on, Emma found herself drawn back to the secret room. Victor's words had captivated her.
I feel a strange connection to this man, a shared sense of loneliness.
She wasn't alone in the house, she could feel it. A presence, cold and unseen, watched her from the shadows.
The air, it's growing colder.
A chill ran down her spine. Whispers followed her as she moved.
Whispering. They were faint at first, like the rustle of leaves.
But they grew stronger. They spoke of her deepest fears, of her darkest secrets.
No, this can't be real.
Fear, sharp and cold, gripped her heart.
Varied ghostly whispers. Emma, Emma.
The whispers led her to the attic. their eerie tones echoing in her mind, compelling her to follow. The air here was thick with dust and the stench of decay, a place long forgotten by time, filled with remnants of the past. A single easel stood in the center of the room, an island of mystery amidst the sea of forgotten memories. A canvas was mounted on it, covered by a heavy cloth that seemed to pulse with a life of its own, hiding secrets beneath its folds. Drawn by an unseen force, Emma approached, her heart pounding in her chest, each step echoing in the silent room. She could feel her hand trembling as she reached for the cloth, a sense of dread and anticipation washing over her.
With a swift movement, she pulled it away, revealing the hidden truth beneath.
The painting was a portrait of Victor, his eyes filled with a haunting sadness that seemed to reach out to her. He stood in the same attic room, his back to the viewer, as if he was trapped in the painting, forever bound to this place. His head was thrown back, his mouth open in a silent scream, a scream that seemed to echo in the silence of the attic. Standing over him, a shadowy figure, its eyes burning with an unnatural light, plunged a dagger into his chest, the moment frozen in time. The painting captured the moment of his death, a scene of horror and despair, forever immortalized on the canvas. The air in the room crackled, the shadowy figure in the painting moved, it turned its burning eyes towards Emma. A scream caught in her throat, the temperature plummeted, the air grew heavy, making it difficult to breathe. The shadow detached itself from the canvas. It solidified in the air, taking on a horrifying form. It was the source of the whispers, the entity that had haunted Victor.
Then, another figure stepped forward, Victor. He was translucent, a shimmering outline of a man. His eyes, filled with sadness and regret, met Emma's.
"Run," he whispered, "while you still can."
He launched himself at the entity, a desperate attempt to buy her time. Emma didn't hesitate. She ran. She could hear the sounds of a struggle behind her, the crash of furniture, the shrieks of the entity, Victor's pained gasps. She didn't look back. She burst out of the mansion and into the cool night air. The mist had cleared. The moon, full and bright, illuminated the path ahead of her.
She didn't stop running until she reached her car. As she drove away, she could see the mansion in her rearview mirror. The shadowy figure flickered at the window, its burning eyes fixed on her. Then, it was gone. The mansion was silent once more.
Emma never forgot what she had seen at Blackwood Manor, the terror, the despair, the sacrifice. She carried Victor's story with her. It was a burden, but also a responsibility. She would tell his story. She would make sure his suffering was not in vain.
She sat down at her desk, the blank page of her notebook staring back at her. Taking a deep breath, she began to write. The words flowed from her pen, driven by the memory of Victor's tormented soul. She would bear witness to the darkness. She would give voice to the whispers. She would tell the story of Blackwood Manor